Imagine if God had made a promise that changed the fate of an entire nation, but one that most of us rarely talk about. The 12 tribes of Ishmael, Abraham's first son, are at the heart of a powerful story that impacts the world to this day. Who were they? What was their true role in God's plan? Stay with me and discover what few know about these forgotten but essential tribes in the history of faith. Imagine yourself in a vast, arid desert, where the sands tell stories not just of struggle and survival, but also of divine promises and grand destinies. The story of Ishmael, Abraham's firstborn with Hagar, Sarah's servant, is recounted in Genesis. Although often overshadowed by his half-brother Isaac, Ishmael also plays a crucial role in the biblical narrative. God's promise to Abraham extended to Ishmael, ensuring he would be a great nation. Genesis 25 records that Ishmael had 12 sons, each becoming the leader of a tribe. The tribes of Ishmael predominantly roamed the Arabian desert, living in tents and surviving in a land that demands much from its inhabitants. This austere setting shaped the Ishmaelites into a robust and adaptable people, mirroring Ishmael's own resilience, who survived exile and adversity from a young age. The Ishmaelites played a significant role in ancient trade routes, connecting great civilizations through the trade of spices, fabrics, and most crucially, ideas. Through these exchanges, they not only survived in a hostile environment but also helped form the cultural and economic foundations of the region. This reflects God's promise that Ishmael would be a central figure, like a wild donkey of a man, with his hand against everyone and everyone's hand against him. The relationship between the tribes of Ishmael and those of Isaac, specifically the Israelites, is complex, marked both by conflicts and collaborations. This plot is a vivid representation of what we often see in real life: blood ties intertwined with rivalries. The Bible does not shy away from these nuances, offering us an honest and sometimes raw view of the challenges of maintaining peaceful relations in a divided world. Reflecting on the history of the 12 tribes of Ishmael, we are called to consider the lasting impact of our ancestors' actions and how blessings and curses pass down across generations. This video is not just an exploration of a biblical genealogy but a meditation on how promises made millennia ago still resonate in our own stories. As Christians, we are urged to look beyond dominant narratives and seek understanding in the stories of the others, the marginalized. Ishmael, often seen just as the other son, emerges here as a central figure whose descendants flourish against all odds. What can we learn from Ishmael and his tribes about God, promises, and survival? As we delve into the story of the 12 tribes of Ishmael, it's essential to remember that each biblical character, from Ishmael to Isaac, from Hagar to Sarah, plays a role in the grand fabric of salvation history. Each story is an interwoven thread, and as we trace Ishmael's lineage, we discover more about ourselves, our struggles, our promises, and our unshakable faith in the fulfillment of divine promises. In considering Ishmael's figure, it's crucial to understand the historical context in which his story unfolds. Abraham, known as the father of many nations, had Ishmael with Hagar, his Egyptian servant, at a time when the lack of an heir could be seen as a divine curse. This act, though motivated by Sarah's despair at having her own children, triggers a series of emotion-filled and conflicting events, as described in the book of Genesis. The birth of Ishmael represents more than just the continuation of a lineage. it symbolizes the complexities of human relationships and divine promises. The cultural context of the time accepted servitude and polygamy as social norms, and the Bible does not hide these realities. Ishmael, therefore, grows up in a home where he is both heir and outsider, loved by his father but also the son of the servant, in a socially ambiguous position. Historically, the narratives of Ishmael and Isaac are crucial for understanding the ethno-religious divisions that still reverberate in the Middle East today. The Ishmaelites and Israelites, descendants of Ishmael and Isaac respectively, are often portrayed in conflict, both in the biblical text and in the subsequent tensions between nations claiming their descent. This context helps us grasp the deep historical and spiritual roots of modern conflicts. God's promise to Abraham that Ishmael would also be the father of a great nation, Genesis 21 verse 18, is significant. It shows God's mercy and inclusiveness, ensuring Ishmael a grand destiny despite the controversial circumstances of his birth. This aspect of the divine promise emphasizes the idea that God works through all human circumstances, even those that, at first glance, seem devoid of hope. In studying the historical context of Ishmael, it's fascinating to observe how the Bible addresses themes of injustice, redemption, and the role of the others. Ishmael, often seen merely as a footnote in Isaac's story, is indeed a bridge to understanding the diversity and complexity of God's plan for humanity. The inclusion of his story challenges us to see beyond the obvious, recognizing the dignity in divine purpose in all lineages. Reflecting on Ishmael in the biblical historical context offers us a rich tapestry of lessons on faith, promises, and the often complicated nature of God's blessings. By bringing these themes to the forefront, Ishmael's narrative helps us better understand not only sacred history but also our own spiritual journey and interpersonal relationships in a fragmented world. The story of Ishmael's descendants, as described in Genesis 25, where his 12 sons are listed, provides us with a broad view of how the Ishmaelite tribes dispersed and adapted to various regions of the Middle East and North Africa. These groups maintained a nomadic lifestyle, essential for survival in arid and inhospitable environments like the Arabian Peninsula and the Sinai Desert. This adaptation not only shows the resilience of these tribes but also their deep harmony with the environment in which they lived. The nomadic life of the Ishmaelites allowed them to develop unique skills, especially in terms of land navigation and the management of water resources and pastures. This lifestyle, marked by constant movements in search of water and pasture, is a testament to their incredible ability to read and adapt to the natural environment. The survival strategies developed by the Ishmaelites were crucial for the establishment of trade routes that linked the East and West. From a cultural and historical perspective, the Ishmaelites also played a fundamental role in the development of early Arab societies. The Bible suggests that these tribes not only inhabited but also influenced vast regions, from Egypt to Assyria, Genesis 25 verse 18. Their interactions and conflicts with other communities and empires of antiquity help illustrate the complex dynamics of the region in those times, dynamics that still resonate today. The figure of Ishmael and his descendants is often shrouded in mystery and fascination. While the Judeo-Christian tradition tends to focus more on the descendants of Isaac, Ishmael's heritage is equally rich and influential, especially considering his role in the formation of the Arab people and, eventually, the emergence of Islam, which recognizes him as an important ancestor. This historical and spiritual link highlights the interconnection of the great Abrahamic traditions. It's remarkable how Ishmael's descendants, despite the adversities and challenges of the desert, not only survived but thrived. They developed skills that made them masters of trade and negotiation, skills that were passed down from generation to generation. The ability to adapt and thrive in such challenging conditions is a lesson in resilience and innovation. Therefore, in studying the descendants of Ishmael, we are reminded of the human capacity for adaptation and survival. The story of these tribes is not just a tale of nomadism and environmental challenges, but also a narrative of cultural resilience and historical impact that shaped civilizations. This part of the biblical story invites us to recognize and value the diversity and complexity of humanity's origins and to better understand the nuances of the stories we share. The complexity of relations among Semitic tribes, as detailed in the scriptures, reflects a tapestry of alliances and conflicts that shaped the political and cultural landscape of the ancient Middle East. The descendants of Ishmael, for example, shared common ties with other Semitic tribes, including the descendants of Esau, Lot, and Midian, all connected through the patriarch Abraham. These ties are evidenced in various biblical passages, showing an interconnection that goes beyond blood ties, encompassing commercial and military spheres as well. For instance, Genesis 36 narrates how the descendants of Esau, who inhabited the region of Edom, interacted with the Ishmaelite tribes. Both groups were known for their skills in war maneuvers and commercial negotiations. These interactions were often marked by a mix of competition and cooperation, a common dynamic among nomadic tribes competing for scarce resources like water and fertile lands for grazing. The story of Lot and his descendants, who gave rise to the Moabites and Ammonites, also reflects this complex interaction. Despite moments of tension and conflict, such as the war among kings recounted in Genesis 14, there are indications of periods of peace and commerce. The interdependence between these tribes is a testament to primitive diplomacy, where treaties and intermarriages were common to ensure mutual survival and stability. The Midianites, descendants of Midian, Abraham's son with Keturah, play a significant role in the biblical narratives, especially in the story of Moses. After fleeing Egypt, Moses found refuge among the Midianites, marrying Zipporah, daughter of Jethro, the priest of Midian. This alliance between Moses and the Midianites illustrates how intertribal relations could also be shaped by personal and religious bonds, influencing leadership and spiritual directions. Despite these often peaceful interactions, moments of conflict cannot be ignored. Tribes frequently clashed over territorial disputes or cultural and religious differences. These conflicts, though challenging, are crucial for understanding the survival strategies of these communities, as well as the evolution of their social and political practices. Thus, when considering the relationship of the Ishmaelites with other Semitic tribes, we observe a panorama of interactions that is both complex and instructive. Studying these relations helps us understand not just ancient history, but also the continuities and disruptions these ancestral cultures left as a legacy. The Bible, in this context, offers a valuable window into understanding how human groups can coexist, compete, and even thrive under challenging circumstances. Each of the 12 sons of Ishmael, mentioned in Genesis 25 verses 13 to 16, represents not just names in a genealogy, they mark the beginning of tribes that would play a significant role in the commercial and cultural dynamics of the ancient Middle East. Let's explore a bit more about each of these sons and the impact of their tribes. Nebaioth, Ishmael's firstborn, often associated with the Nabateans, a tribe that later settled in what is now Jordan. The Nabateans were notable for their spice trade and impressive architecture, like the famous city of Petra. Kedar, the tribe of Kedar was known for its prowess in battle and sheep breeding. They are often mentioned in ancient texts, including biblical prophecies, as a nomadic people of strong warriors. Adbeel, though less known, Adbeel led a tribe likely involved in commerce and influential in trade routes across Arabia. Mibsam, details about Mibsam and his tribe are scarce, but, like the others, it is likely they maintained a nomadic lifestyle, adapting to desert conditions. Mishma, this tribe, led by Mishma, may have intermingled with other Semitic populations over time, contributing to the cultural diversity of the region. Duma, possibly located in what is now Saudi Arabia, Duma is mentioned in prophetic texts as a place of commerce. Masa, this tribe is mentioned in contexts suggesting a life of constant movement and possible confrontations with other tribes. Hadad, also involved in trade, Hadad may have led his tribe along commercial routes, economically influencing the region. Tema, the tribe of Tema was well known, and its strategic location on trade routes aided in exchanges between various cultures. Jetur, this tribe is identified in biblical texts as part of the peoples later known as the Eturians, involved in territorial conflicts in the region of Lebanon. Naphish, little is known about Naphish, but like his brothers, his descendants likely maintained a nomadic lifestyle, adapting to harsh desert conditions. Kadima, the tribe of Kadima is also obscurely mentioned, but would have maintained the traditional Ishmaelite lifestyle, heavily reliant on geographical and climatic conditions for survival. Studying these tribes offers us a view into the complexity of ancient societies and how interactions among them shaped the history of the Middle East. Each tribe not only struggled for survival but also uniquely contributed to the cultural tapestry of the region. Beyond Assyrian records and the chronicles of Josephus, the presence of Ishmael's tribes on Middle Eastern trade routes suggests they played a central role in the cultural and economic exchange among great civilizations, such as Babylon, Egypt, and even India. These interactions help shape regional dynamics, influencing everything from trade practices to religious and cultural traditions, demonstrating the complex network of influences these tribes maintained. The Ishmaelites' ability to maintain diplomatic and commercial relations with great empires and other tribes also highlights their cunning and adaptability. In a world where power often derived from the ability to wage war and form strategic alliances, the tribes of Ishmael showed that survival and influence could also stem from the ability to negotiate and interact peacefully with various cultures and peoples. Therefore, in studying the historical influence of Ishmael's tribes, we're not just exploring a chapter of ancient history but also recognizing the vital role these people played in the cultural and economic development of the ancient world. They not only survived in adverse conditions but thrived and left an indelible mark on history, which can still be seen in modern historical and archaeological studies. The story of the Ishmaelite tribes is full of movements and encounters with other groups, inevitably raising questions about possible tribal mergers over the centuries. The Bible, while offering a detailed genealogical record, leaves room for speculation about the fate of these tribes, especially regarding their interactions with other Semitic tribes, such as that of Simeon. This type of interaction could not only alter the internal dynamics of these tribes but also their cultural and territorial identities. Biblical accounts about Simeon, for example, show a tribe that often found itself in a peripheral position relative to the Israelite center in Judah and Samaria. Thus, it's plausible to consider that, under external pressure or resource scarcity, tribes like Simeon might seek alliances or even merge with Ishmaelite groups, who had a strong presence in adjacent desert regions. This merger could be both a survival strategy and an opportunity to expand commercial or military influences. Furthermore, the nomadic nature of the Ishmaelite tribes would facilitate these encounters and mergers. The mobility of these tribes meant they frequently crossed territories inhabited by other Semitic communities. This not only increased the likelihood of conflicts but also of mixed marriages and, consequently, the assimilation of traditions, religious practices, and languages, leading to a gradual cultural fusion. Historians and archaeologists have speculated about these tribal mergers based on evidence such as changes in settlement patterns, artifacts shared across regions known to be inhabited by Ishmaelites and other Semitic groups, and linguistic similarities observed in ancient inscriptions. These pieces of evidence, though fragmented, suggest a pattern of interaction that goes beyond simple trade or conflict, indicating a deeper integration among these tribes over time. However, there is also the possibility that some Ishmaelite tribes simply disappeared from recorded history, absorbed by more dominant groups or decimated by conflicts and natural disasters. The absence of concrete records about the fate of some of these tribes fuels speculation and studies, encouraging archaeological and historical research to fill the gaps left by ancient texts. In summary, speculations about tribal mergers among Ishmaelites and other Semitic tribes illustrate the complexity of social and cultural dynamics in the ancient Middle East. Investigating these possible mergers not only enriches our understanding of the region's history but also highlights the fluidity of tribal identities in a world where survival often depended on the ability to adapt and integrate with other groups. Ishmaelite tribes, according to the biblical narrative and historical records, demonstrated a remarkable ability to survive and adapt in some of the most inhospitable regions on Earth. The desert, with its extreme heat during the day and cold at night, requires not just physical endurance but also a deep understanding of the environment. These tribes, as described in Genesis, developed living strategies that allowed them not just to survive but to thrive, using caravan trade routes to interact and influence vast areas of the Middle East and North Africa. The nomadic life of the Ishmaelite tribes was essentially adapted to maximize scarce resources. They moved constantly in search of water and pasture for their flocks, a lifestyle that required detailed knowledge of desert routes and hidden oases. This knowledge, passed down from generation to generation, was not just practical but also a central element of their cultural and social identity, enabling them to navigate and survive where others might fail. Beyond natural resource management, the Ishmaelite tribes also developed skills in commercial negotiations. They acted as intermediaries in the trade of spices, incense, myrrh, and precious fabrics between Africa, Arabia, and Asia. This strategic position provided them with influence and resources that transcended mere sustenance, positioning them as significant cultural and economic agents in the region. The ability of Ishmaelite tribes to adapt also reflected in their social and diplomatic practices. They often formed alliances, through marriages and trade agreements, with other tribes and peoples. These alliances were crucial for their survival, as they ensured access to resources, information, and mutual protection against external threats, a common and necessary practice in such a challenging environment. Culturally, the adaptability of the Ishmaelites also manifested in their religiosity and oral traditions. Stories and traditions passed orally reinforced group cohesion and the transmission of vital knowledge for survival in the desert. This cultural aspect not only strengthened the social fabric but also helped maintain a robust collective identity, essential for keeping a community united under extreme conditions. Therefore, in considering the survival and adaptation of the Ishmaelite tribes, we see a combination of practical skills and social strategies that allowed them to significantly influence the history of the Middle East and North Africa. Their story is a testament to human power of adaptation and the ability to turn adversities into opportunities, maintaining their culture and influence through the centuries. Therefore, the modern presence of Ishmael's tribes is not just a remnant of the past, but a living part of the cultural and social tapestry of the Middle East. The stories of these tribes, interwoven through centuries of history, continue to influence contemporary practices and offer a unique window into understanding how ancient lineages and traditions adapt and survive in a constantly changing world. Did you enjoy diving into the fascinating stories of Ishmael's tribes and discovering how they have influenced and still influence our modern world? If you found this interesting and want to continue exploring more incredible stories like this one, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Give a like if you enjoyed the video and comment below which part of the story you found most interesting or if there's another biblical theme you'd like us to explore together. Remember, every subscription, like, and comment helps our channel grow and allows us to bring even more rich and engaging content to you. So, don't miss out. Join our community, activate the notification bell so you don't miss any of our videos, and continue with us on this exciting journey through historical and spiritual knowledge. See you in the next video.